Welcome back to round two of the League That Means Nothing 2 on Go Again Gaming. I am Ian. I'm recording solo this week because I couldn't get another caster in, but hey, you can put up with me. It's fine. Today, we've got a game between Carlos Gonzalez on new. Carlos, obviously a former member of the league from League One, where he was a brute main in the Pro Tour. Trying out something new today, playing some assassin. You know, I think I heard something about Carlotta cosplaying new. Maybe he got some inspiration. And he is facing another hero from Miss Vale, Chris Chalk, who I also met in Pro Tour Amsterdam on Enigma. Now, both of these players had a tough round one. Uh, Chris, where he played against a Bolton that just had it all. So this is an interesting one because obviously Enigma wants to load their deck with a lot of powerful blues, wants them playable. New also loves it when her opponent has a deck full of powerful blues. um, so my common sideboarding strategy going into a game with new is, can I take out my levels of enlightenments and my really powerful cards and still win the game? Like, classic example is in the Pro Tour in Amsterdam. Juha Sarnilampi very delightedly hit me with my own copies of Smash Instinct 5 times. Anyway, with that, I think I'll throw over to the gameplay and we're going to see what these two people have cooked up. Okay. Now, it's looking like a pretty standard setup from both sides of the table with the Enigma on all of the standard Enigma equipment, one cloaked arm piece. Who knows what it could be? Definitely not an Uphold tradition. Why would you ever play an Uphold tradition? And the new side, so Carlos on again the standard new loadout, using that Mask of Recurring Nightmares to banish cards as an attack reaction. I see Carlos has everything. Looks like in Japanese where he was able to get it. Probably from the world premiere if he was there, or through friends he had. And it looks like we have Carlos going first as well. So with this, you obviously don't want to give your opponent a chance to filter, but at the same time, new doesn't really send things to the graveyard. If you block a card with stealth, it's just going into your banish zone, which is a really interesting part of the game. So yeah, we have a lead off with the Beckoning Mistblade, which is fairly standard practice from most new players. Surprised to see Chris on the Meridian Pathway, which has its own benefits, of course, but a lot of people would take Phantasmal Footsteps into the situation because by paying one, you can just you free cover the Mistblade every turn. All right, we just got our players sorting out the life totals. As you can tell, both of these people were in the Pro Tour in Amsterdam with that lovely Blood of Drakai playmat, one of which I have somewhere here in this apartment. Phenomenal going to the Pro Tours, getting those gem playmats. It just really shows the level of players that we have in the league that means nothing. They're playing for nothing when they could be playing in the Pro Tour and have been playing in the Pro Tour. So you get people from all elements of Flesh and Blood here. And now we have Carlos coming in with the Bonds of Agony. Now, this is a powerful card, like a really, really big deal. With one card blocking, now Carlos is going to transcend that turn one transcend with a Stir the Pot, Marvel, naturally. And Chris blocking with a weakest link, obviously thinking if this bonds goes through, I don't really want my weakest links all banished. They're pretty good card. So we'll see what Carlos plans to do here with this transcend. I imagine there might be an attack reaction or two coming out of new because Bonds of Agony really is most online when you attack react a bunch. So first reaction is going to be that Mask of Recurring Nightmares, forcing Chris to banish a card. Now, obviously, if you're Enigma, maybe you banish the card, maybe you don't. Responding with a Sink Below, and then playing a Restless Coalescence, thus no cards get banished. Fantastic sneaky play from Chris here. One of the real powers that Enigma has in this matchup, and why, in general, Illusionist has proven to be so problematic for assassins. They can't force fair, even trades. I say fair, where assassins are very happy to trade on small resource hands, and Enigma, by able to build a board state, is kind of able to crack that parity, um, where they can accumulate advantage on board without having their hand disrupted. So now we're over to Chris for his first turn, and we'll see what he has to lead with. This round's on me. Excellent card. I played it a lot post Briar during the Fi meta, drawing a card. Immediately, those daggers don't do anything now. And it is a blue. It is a 3 block, so it allows Enable Transcend, and it's a great blocking card as well. And here we have a Phantasmaclasm from Chris. Thinking about what to pitch. Yeah, pitching another Restless Coalescence and just sending in a 9 here, allowing him to snipe any card out of Carlos's hand and let him replace it. So we have a Pick to Pieces, Persuasive Prognosis, 2 Enlightened Strikes, and a Codex. So it's a tough call to see what would be taken here. I would imagine Codex at this juncture of the game doesn't do a whole lot. So taking something like an E-Strike really limits Carlos's power turns on his crackback. He can't just go double Enlightened Strike you and something else. So it's a tough call. And obviously you're running the risk here with this Phantasmaclasm of bottoming something and dragging out a popper. So yeah, we see the Pick to Pieces go to the bottom of the deck. Carlos picks up his hand and gets to draw a card. Now, it could be a case where Carlos just decides, do you know what? I'm going to cover the 9 damage and send back an Enlightened Strike. But it's hard to say. Chris is obviously sitting on his ward 2. In that Restless Coalescence, which, when you play that dry, doesn't really do a whole lot, but gets more powerful if you get something like a Shimmers of Silver in play. And just the ability to start cranking out extra Spectral Shields is a serious boon. Carlos really thinking about his blocks here. I think when you're in the Enigma seat and you're in the new seat and you see your opponent like this, you're like, you both have to settle in for quite a long game. Yeah, Carlos taking the 9. I imagine with the this round's on me damage reduction, he is decided to try and press his advantage here with a 5-card hand. So it'll be curious to see what he drew off of that Phantasmaclasm. And here we have an Enlightened Strike, I assume for go again. One would hope. Because, God. Otherwise, an Enlightened Strike for 6, not really where you want to be. It's below rate at that point if it's costing you a card. Yeah, so we have 4 go again coming into Chris. Obviously, Restless Coalescence is there, so that will prevent 2 should it be popped. The ward being a crucial aspect in this deck as well. So we just got some hand shuffling, some good old Brian Kibler hand shuffling for those Magic players amongst you. And Carlos being given his tunic counter because we're all good sports here. After all, it means nothing. What are these players playing for? Nothing. Pride, maybe. Yeah. Chris just letting the Restless Coalescence be chewed up there. And Enlightened Strike dealing 2 damage. Reduced by 2 from the ward, and obviously 2 reduced to 4 by that this turns on me. Jeez, can't think today. And we have another 4 go again here. More or less what I figured would happen. Now we get to see, of those 5 cards, what was it that Carlos kept? Because with this turns on me active, those daggers not super appealing. 2 for 0 is not really where you want to be at in a game of Flesh and Blood. Ah, nice. And a very nice one here. The Leave No Witnesses, one of the best Assassin's cards ever printed. Possibly the best one. And yeah, just a simple block three from Chris. And Carlos closing up, managing to make the most of the hand that he had and reducing the hand size in general of Chris, which is always good because if you allow an Enigma to build a board, it can get pretty scary pretty quickly. All right, now let's see what we have. We're over the Chris's turn. He's really thinking about this one. Um, two cards in hand, three cards in hand, and one in arsenal. Yeah, just the Shimmers of Silver and a Restless Coalescence again. So that's the third kitty we've seen. Really powerful card, obviously, especially if he gets to get back to his turn with it in play and Shimmers in play, because Shimmers doesn't just give a +1 counter in Enigma, it gives Go Again. Thanks to that Cosmo, Ledger of Ancestry. All right, now Carlos obviously leading with those daggers, that Beckoning Mistblade. Really annoying for a hero like Enigma because, well, like annoying for any hero because no one wants to just waste an entire card on one block. So Chris just letting that Restless Coalescence soak the damage there. And now let's see what Carlos has to follow it up. I would imagine clearing that was pretty important, but knowing that Chris has let it go makes you feel like you really need to pressure because that means the hand is good. Yeah, so we've got a Spider's Bite pitching that beautiful rainbow foil, Weakest Link, signed by Fidem, and a Blanche. So pitching a Codex and using Tunic, sending in a 7, which when it hits a hero, cards lose all colors, which I don't know if anyone here who's watching has played any Mistveil draft. Such a powerful effect. Like if you can turn off someone's color box, you think most heroes don't really care. Um, but the Mistveil ones do. Prism really does. There's a few heroes in this game where if you take that Blanche hit, that on hit is super effective. Now, looks like Chris has some effects in the aftermath of this turn. Yeah, it's pitching a Waxing Spectre, pitching a blue. Now, that I assume is this is with the Blanche on hit on the stack, because otherwise, naturally, that Waxing Spectre would not get that +1 counter, which is really the whole reason to play it. It's why it's one of the most playable auras in Enigma, because being able to attack for just 4 Go Again, pitching a blue is really good rate, because it sticks around. And now with that Shimmers in play, it'll get another counter. So we're sending in with Chris starting with sending in 5 trigger Shimmers. Yeah, 5 Go Again. Guardians could only dream of these numbers. Sending in a big hammer. And Carlos just taking it, knowing that he's going to need more of his hand to deal with something like this. And then a Weakest Link from Chris. Very good. Card came out in Mistveil. Has become automatically one of the most playable pieces in the Part the Mistveil metagame. And I think could see a lot of play going forward into Rosetta with all of the instants that are running around. So, not only does this have a powerful on hit that makes it a discard, if it hits, Chris could very well wind up with an extra card in hand, which is great for having an arsenal. So, Carlos really needing to think about this one, which makes me think either he wants to stay above 20 or he's got some instants in his hand to protect. The problem is, obviously, by protecting those instants, is your hand still playable when it gets back to your turn? So, yeah, we've got a big think about this one here from Carlos, trying to figure out whether this is the right thing to do, the right call to make. And yeah, it looks like we've got a six block, a Razor's Edge, and a Bonds of Attraction. Cards that really care, again, about stealth. Stealth being such an important keyword in new, and a keyword that I famously was described as doing nothing when it was spoiled. Yeah, so we did see there was a grade in the tips of scale again with the Marvels, Carlos. All right, using the league, a lot of players here using the league to show off their pimped out decks because I'm pretty sure that Shimmers of Silver Chris has in play is also a cold foil. So we've got a Mistblade coming in, being blocked by a second copy of Shimmers, and a Siren's Call. Great, great card. Very disruptive. Look at the defending hero's hand, choose a blue card, add it to the chain link as defending, and if you do, draw a card. Um, this is a bit of disruption that most people don't expect coming out of those daggers. So we've got a response here from Chris. Is going to play a Manifestations of Mirror Guy with two counters in order to not lose it and that Raid Spectre to the dagger. And then reveals his hand to reveal a red. So Siren's Call, not able to steal anything. Carlos not able to gain any extra cards on this turn. But this is leaving Chris in a very good position now to be able to attack with the Mirror Guy on his turn, which will obviously come in for six, or the Waxing Spectre, which would also come in for six. Thank you, Shimmers of Silver. It's always interesting to see how powerful those Everfest auras are in the game. As someone who played all through Everfest, played Viserai, played Briar, played infinity games into Prism, and man, that was a bad time. Once those auras came out, they really turbocharged that deck. So yeah, we have a Manifestations of Mirror Guy now with three counters. You would think, sure, it has Ward 3, so it's 3 power, right, Cosmo? No, it's 3 power from the Ward, and because it has Ward 3 from the counters, and those counters also count towards its damage. So this is 6 go again for 1 resource. Seems fair and balanced, right? Everyone's a fan, right? No. Now, for anyone who hasn't had the joy of playing against a Manifestations of Mirror Guy either in draft or in constructed, it is one of those cards that it is a must kill threat. If Chris is able to keep this Mirror Guy around for a couple of turns, this game will rapidly spiral out of control for Carlos. Like, it can get nasty. But here we have a looking for a scrap. So this is going to be banishing a card from the graveyard, banishing that Bonds of Attraction. So it is going to banish a card with 1 power, and then it gains +1 power and go again. So this is a nice 5 go again for Carlos, which is really good because it's an awkward number. Breakpoints are going to be key in this matchup, and things like those daggers as well, because those daggers are just a nightmare to block. They're just awkward. And really, that is what new has to be to win this game. You have to be awkward. You have to make your opponent's blocking decisions difficult. If it ever gets easy decisions for Chris, he is just going to start running away with this game, as he has already accumulated a ton of value just from 2 cards on board plus the Shimmers of Silver. So we have a 5 block here with a Haze Bending and a Phantasmaclasm. And now, if I'm Carlos, I'm delighted to see that Haze Bending go away because that is a card that will ruin your day. And then a 6 power attack coming in terms of this weakest link. Now, this is very strange, obviously, because Carlos has been sitting on that arsenal for a while and still has a card in hand. So if you're Chris, you got to be wary. You got to be worried that something is waiting there that you're not expecting. So I imagine, yeah, just a sink below, and he's going to allow one of his cards potentially to cover this damage. I would imagine the Waxing Spectre is going to eat it. because Carlos would need to be able to pump this weakest link up by at least 2 points of damage. Yeah, we got a Van Brace activation, which reduces the ward on Waxing Spectre by 1, but it's still with the Sink Below combined able to cover that up. And Chris obviously now has a card in hand, which means Mirror Guy gets to attack for 8. And this is what I'm talking about when a card can just run the game. Manifestations of Mirror Guy is easily one of the more powerful cards we've ever seen for a class Majestic. Um, it can dominate drafts, it can dominate sealed, it just can. The whole game can become about manifestations of Mirror Guy and how are you able to deal with it. Because if you're not, you end up in these situations where your opponent is able to give you 3 cards, maybe something else, and then just keep 1 card, keep Tunic counter, attack you. And we see that combined with Shimmers of Silver just generating so much advantage for Chris. All right, Carlos, though, has kept his entire hand, so I imagine this turn he has decided Mirror Guy has to go. If it does not go this turn, it's coming in for 10 the next turn, possibly 12 with Uphold Tradition. If he's even playing it, God, who knows? I hear Enigma could run any arm slot they want. Yeah, so we'll have a lead on that. Beckoning Mistblade, again, 1 damage is not a lot, but Ward forces that damage prevention. It doesn't matter what you have. If it says 1 damage and you take it and you have Ward 4, you lose the ward. And the most important thing for Chris right now is going to be preserving that. So yeah, Chris is going to uphold tradition, pop a counter on that Mirror Guy, and let the 1 ward from the uphold tradition eat the damage from this Beckoning Mistblade. But again, it's not the worst thing for Carlos because we get to chew through the uphold tradition. And if we're really planning on, oh, nice, we have a Van Brace activation. So that's chewing through that Manifestations of Mirror Guy, which is a pretty good spot to be in now if you're Carlos, because that Uphold Tradition has been used, has gained a functionally no value. And we have to follow it up with something like a Persuasive Prognosis. Now, this is, again, a very powerful card, especially when you're playing against a Mistveil hero, because when it hits, you banish the top card of the deck and banish a card from their hand. If you can eat 2 cards, that's great. You gain some life if they're actions. Now, obviously, Enigma, a lot of instants, so you won't gain any life from that. But disrupting your hero, your opponent, is always very good. Now we've got a Passover from Carlos. Again, a Marvel. I really need to get my hands on those Marvel G. And he needs to choose a target here to banish. So it's going to be that Mirror Guy to make sure it can't be Preserved Tradition and with. No, Preserved Tradition only hits actions, so it's fine. It means if Chris had a Preserved Tradition in hand, he would not be able to stuff the Passover effect. And we have a Mask activation. Chris banishing a Command and Conquer. And Carlos is activating his Tunic to get a resource to play a Venomous Bite from his arsenal. The red Venomous Bite, kind of, we were expecting it was going to be an attack reaction. So it's going to give a +3 and then another +1 because of the Fang Strike that was created because there's a blue in the pitch zone. And now that is dealing 4 damage to Chris and eating his Uphold Tradition. And now Carlos gets to banish the top card of his deck. Chris playing in the Mirror Guy after damage so as to limit the amount of disruption on Carlos's hand. Banishing a Haze Bending so he gets to gain a life. And Chris, with Tunic ticking up, is going to get another turn with Mirror Guy, a card that has just been gotten rid of. It's coming right back. So this is going to be the game. Attack, defend, destroy ward, hope it's good enough. And Carlos, obviously, as he accumulates chi, that mask is really good at disrupting. But at some point, his new deck is going to have some very powerful cards to play because of mirror guys and things like that. Now we've just got a swing for 6 with that mirror guy, showing off 2 blues in the banish, the haze bending, and the other manifestations of mirror guy. And Carlos really thinking about this block here because obviously life total is far behind, and we could end up in a situation where the word doesn't matter anymore because Enigma can just play enough attacks to kill you. She can just get you. We've seen Command and Conquers, we've seen Weakest Links, and then things like Phantasmaclasm, Spears of Surreality, stuff like that. Yeah, Carlos just taking the 6, going to 8, knowing that he needs to make sure these mirror guys stay off the board and they don't come back. Now, another looking for scrap, another great piece of tech for Carlos. The same card again, banishing a Bonds of Agony, 5 go again. Demanding 2 cards from Chris. There's no way to sneak around that this time. Demanding 2 cards if he wants to keep that mirror guy. Chris really thinking about it. Does he want to keep the mirror guy? Does he want to let it ride and then use the cards in his hand to defend something that might be more powerful later? So yeah, just taking the 2 damage from the looking for scrap, letting his mirror guy get eaten. And now if Carlos is thinking about it, he might be thinking about, do I need to kill this Shimmers of Silver? Because it is a powerful card. But then again, you're leaving the Enigma with a 4-card hand. So you're all in awkward positions here if you're Carlos. Chris casually showing off his Dominia sleeves. A true illusionist gamer, I believe. Talked to him a fair bit in Amsterdam. Real illusionist gamer. And you can tell by all the cold foils and the marbles. Because if you meet an illusionist player in Flesh and Blood, oh, you'll know. You'll know. They'll tell you. They'll show you. I'm not. I am partial to a bit of bling myself, but I'll never reach the level of these illusionists, especially those Prism gamers and those Dromai gamers. They had marbles everywhere. Yeah. So Carlos going to follow up here with the Beckoning Mistblade, trying to get some cards away from Chris's hand, thinking about how he's going to play out the rest of his hand. Chris obviously looking at this and being like, "Well, it's just 1." But it's really, if you defend 1 here, you actually defend 2, and you stop the attacks from having go again this turn. Yep, just taking it this time. So Chris obviously likes the look of his hand. It's going to be a pretty good turn for him if he gets to keep it. Oh, what a power card from Carlos here. Pitching a Venomous Bite. He's able to draw a card from Levels of Enlightenment because he has 1 blue in the pitch zone. And with Beckoning Mistblade, it's a 4 go again. Really one of the best parts of this card. So 4 go again. Let's see what Carlos has to follow this up. And another dagger, another little poke. Now you can ignore these for quite the long. Great. Really well disciplined from Carlos. Using that Spider's Bite, clearing out that Shimmers of Silver. You've had enough value from that, Chris. You've gotten too many counters. Now, Chris obviously liking the look of this hand, sending in a this round's on me, pitching a red. So that to me says Chris is planning on transcending this turn because there's no point in pitching a red to play a blue unless you have some serious follow up here. And, the other benefit of turning off the daggers. Always a good one. And Chris is going to transcend in the best way possible. He's going to pitch his mirror guy for the Sacred Art Immortal Lunar Shrine. So this is going to put two spectral shields in play and put a +1/+1 counter on each aura with ward. So it looks like we've got one cold foil spectral shield and one Enigma. Ooh, that's a looks like an altar or a card from another game that I have not played. I am not Red Zone Rogue. I have not played every card game in existence. Someday I'll have to ask Cal. So now we got an extra counter on that spectral shield now. So we've got two go again. Pretty easy. And that one's for free. And now Chris is thinking about what to do with the rest of his hand. And he's just going to dissolve reality. Now, this is a card which has some value that a lot of people have not quite had not quite realized at first. You don't need an arsenal to play this card. If you play it without an arsenal, you still get that ponder, which is just a very powerful effect. And then pitching the chi, making another spectral shield with a counter. Oh, it looks like Chris's spectral shields are actually illusionists from different events. The tickets. That's very cool. I like that a lot. That's a great idea. And now Ponder Cracks gets his arsenal. And 19 plus 3 ward. You're sitting pretty if you're Chris right now. Because he gets to attack for 2 go again every turn, even if he keeps his entire hand. And Carlos doesn't get to harass him with those knives. Those daggers don't do anything right now. Beyond allowing Carlos to filter cards. Yeah, why not? We'll just start with the Command and Conquer. It's about as good as it gets. No defense reactions. So Command and Conquer coming in here for 5. One floating. And I imagine Carlos is really thinking about can he use the rest of his hand to do anything? Because he has 3 more cards here. And he held his hand, so it could be interesting to see what he does. I imagine that one resource could very easily go into his shoes, these stilettos, to create a slither token and give this Command and Conquer go again. And now, anyone who's been playing Flesh and Blood for a while will know Command and Conquer with go again is a spicy thing to hear. It's not exactly one you're excited for, unless you are the one saying it. Chris is really mulling over this decision here, trying to decide is the arsenal worth it? Do I give up 2 cards? Do I give up 1 card and some shields? What way do I play this? So obviously, if it's only 1 card, Carlos can use that Van Brace of Determination, and that'll net him all 3 spectral shields. Now instead, we've got Chris blocking with the Traverse the Universe to gain an inner chi and put it into his hand. Traverse might be borderline a mistake in Part the Misfell, personally speaking, with its ability to just tutor your deck for an inner chi means if you've transcended once, you're always locked in for having a chi if you need it, and has prompted some people to play against Zen in such a way that maybe I don't block at all. Maybe I don't attack. Attacking might punish me. So yeah, we have those undertow stilettos popped. That Slither token made. That Command and Conquer given go again. Carlos here sitting with 3 cards in hand. Chris about to lose 3 spectral shields, which you know is kind of not an irrelevant thing to lose. That is 6 power being taken out by this Command and Conquer. Potentially. Yeah. Those spectral shields are kind of gone. That Traverse the Universe is blocked with. So now you never need to think about that button for the rest of the game. And now we have a Persuasive Prognosis coming for Zero. Only zero. Ah, now, Carlos, you might have made a mistake. You know you can't deal damage. You don't have an on hit if it's zero. What do you have in hand? Who could say? Yeah, path well traveled. Giving it a go again. Transcending. Now, if you're Carlos here, do you activate the mask? You do. Banish a card from hand. It could as well be a point where you're getting to in the game where you want to activate new. Maybe play some of those auras that Chris has in his banish zone. Keep your life total a little bit higher. Start padding out that life total with a a ward two mirror guy and a haze bending, something like that. Now Chris is obviously having to think about what do I give up to this mask. You have 4 cards in hand. 5 cards. One is a chi, obviously. Now, Chris really haven't mulled this one over, so he may be thinking about responding to the trigger and dumping some cards out of his hand. But, that runs the risk of Carlos having another attack left in his hand, which could potentially be a serious problem. But no, we just see the banished shimmers of silver. And now let's see what Carlos is going to do with this go again that he has. He's really thinking about it now. Do I play this card? I think the best case scenario from here would be a codex. But it looks like he's just going to pass. Offer Chris that opportunity to play anything because if he wants to dump an instant or two into play. And no, it looks like we're just going to go to the end of turn here. Carlos not arsenaling. Oh, cracking his ponder, of course, and then arsenaling. Yes. Cards at the bottom. And we have a draw of 3. So let's see what's in this hand that Chris kept. We've got some glare there. Spectral manifestations. Pitching a blue sync below. Blue sync, the sneaky tech in Enigma, allows you to transcend on your opponent's turn. And it's still a 2-block and some card filtering, which is pretty good. But this allows him to make his own Titan's Fist with no downside. So Spectral Shield for 4, go again. Again, for those of us who played a fair bit of MST draft, you can play a game that is just turn 1, play red Spectral Manifestations, block 12 for the rest of the game, and just bleed your opponent out. So 4 damage, Carlos just eats it. He's really thinking about what's going to follow up. More worried about some sort of follow up, I'd imagine. And then Chris is going to make another Spectral Shield using Enigma. Oh, and then play a 10,000 year reunion. Removing 3 +1/+1 counters. And sending in 10 damage. That's fine. This is fine. So 10k, colloquially. 10,000 year reunion, you may remove 3 +1 counters from auras you control instead of paying its cost. And then it just attacks for 10. Simple. Simple, clean, efficient, horrendously powerful. I see that the chi was actually pitched to activate. It's gone blank. The footsteps, the new boots from Mistveil, which allow you to play auras as instants. So that is obviously allowing him to play this 10,000 year reunion and swing with it. When your opponent's at 2, 10. 10's a pretty number. And now, like, Chris can just play that game I was talking about where you keep yourself alive. Because all you need to do now is just be like, you're at 2, here's 10. You're at 2, here's 10. Yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9. Carlos opting to go to 1. I think he's in what I would call a very tough spot here. Now, knowing that he has 2 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal, and has 11 ward in play that he has to chew through in order to even affect Chris's life total. So we'll start with a hurl. It's a pretty good start. Now let's see, is Carlos going to pay for the hurl and yeet a dagger as well, which is a great way to deal with ward in an uncontested way. Now we've just got a rising sun, setting moon from Chris and a stir the pot. So uh, this is played in this order because it means Chris can stir the pot, transcend, rising sun, setting moon, draw a card, put the chi he has just created into it, effectively turning stir the pot into any other card, which sometimes that's all you need. And then, obviously, in Enigma, sometimes you can make a shield on their turn, make a shield on your turn, and then you're really off to the races. There's a lot of Marvel cheese flying around in this game anyway. And Chris is just going to give a 3 block on this hurl, a Warmonger's Diplomacy. And then we have another hurl from Carlos, another 3 go again, keeping a card in hand. So I wonder what that card in hand could be. Now we know Chris has at least 1 chi in hand. At least 1. Yeah, giving up another 3 block, is it? No, it's a 2 block. It's a Spectral Manifestations and that Spectral Shield of his. And here we have the Codex from Carlos. This is great. This is best possible, really, as far as he's concerned. Because not only does Codex of Frailty allow him some disruption, but it effectively says that all of Chris's auras will get -1 power because Cosmo turns them into weapons. And Chris obviously has to discard here now that he's played a couple of his cards from hand. Yeah, discarding a Hold the Line blue. And Carlos now swinging in that Leave No Witnesses, targeting that Phantasmaclasm in Arsenal, and we've just got a Fate Foreseen. Yeah, easy peasy. Clean as a whistle, clean as you like. Job done. Chris with 1 card in hand, 1 card in Arsenal. Now we know it's a Phantasmaclasm. So it'll be interesting to see what he does here. Whether he attacks for 9 with the 10k or 9 or 8 with the Phantasmaclasm. Instead, we've just got the creation of a Spectral Shield. Spectral Shield's coming in for 1 power, blocked, and then using the Tunic to attack for 9 with that 10,000 year reunion. And I'm pretty sure this is where you close the game out. Because if your opponent is not able to disrupt you, not even able to force cards from you, then we're in a seriously bad spot as Carlos here. This is a tough one. I know this is always going to be a tough matchup. This is easily the toughest matchup in 4 new, other than Prism and Kano. Chris just going to transcend again, just showing off here. Can use his boots again, pitching a blue, pitching a chi, activating new, or activating Enigma, choosing to allow um, those shoes to gain ward 3, allowing him to keep his entire board state. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I've seen this one before. I think I've been on the receiving end of this one from an Enigma and gone like, "Huh, well, this is fine. This is fine." Yeah, going over to Chris's turn. Uh, Counter on Tunic. Spectral Shield for 2, go again. Because now everything is lethal. Every single attack that we see is going to be lethal. Spectral Shield for 2, go again. And this is a functionally all she wrote here, with Carlos not able to cover the 10 damage from this 10,000 year reunion, or whatever else that Chris decides he wants to do. Because really, the world is his oyster here. He gets to do whatever he wants. Yeah, paying 1 now and attacking for 10 with 10k. So, unless you got some reckless swing technology, nope. We've just got a Leave No Witnesses and a Transcend card. Whew. Carlos, I am sorry. That was a tough game to watch. You really tried your best. You were on the back foot very early on, and you had to really eat a lot of damage to try and deal with what was going on around you. And Chris really just masterclass in how to play illusionist into assassin. Never holding on to cards that he didn't need to hold on to. Never going too low on resources to try and protect ward that gives Carlos a way back into the deck. Really well done, Chris. Really well done, Carlos. Now, that looked like a tough game, though, for our friends in Fabritorium. But hey, Chris over on Cardboard Swords is going to be happy after that one. Um, and now we've got some more gamers in to come. I look forward to seeing what both those players can do in round 3. Um, if you like this video, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, send all that engagement to Az so that Go Again Gaming keeps getting better. We get to go again with the league that means nothing, and I get to keep casting them. So please, if you have any feedback, this is my first time doing commentary on my own, so let me know what you think. If you want the 2-man booth, I can always harangue one of my friends back into doing it. But for now, thank you so much. I've been Ian. You can find me on Twitter at finals_spirit, and I'll see you in the next one.